Robert Ackerman joins us here on Author's Corner. The name of his book is I Heal You with My Hands. So important. And we start off here on Author's Corner with me, Kate Delaney, on America Tonight. And thank you for your service, Robert, because he's a Vietnam veteran and he was the director of the Pennington County Drug and Alcohol Task Force. And he was also the director of the Meade Street Halfway House and helped so many. I mean, when does he even have time in his life? All the things that he did. The director of a referees association, ambulance service. I mean, he's a giver, giver, giver. Even a volunteer fireman as well for 7 years. So, Robert, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Let's talk about your book. Why did you write I Heal You with My Hands? What drove you to write it?
What drove me to write it is in 1969, I was in a hotel room in Ubon, Thailand, and I walked into the room. There was a big suite because they didn't have any room for us on the air base. So we lucked out and got this big suite. And God, I don't know the word, picked me up, word for it. He enveloped me and took me across the room and deposited me in the right middle of the king size bed, and then he started taking the breath from my lungs, and I thought, oh, here I go. I didn't know God took people this way. And then after all the breath was out of my body, he started letting the breath come back into my body. I thought, well, maybe I'm not going now. And after all the breath was back in my body, he said to me, someday you'll heal with my hands. So all these years I've been trying to figure out what he meant, and I think I finally figured it out.
So, and tell everybody a glimpse of what they can find out in the book, because you talk about the things that, I mean, all the things that you've experienced and learned about the world and where we're headed. So tell us a little bit more about the book, which everybody, by the way, can get on Amazon, Barnes and Noble for a song.
What do you want? Where do you want me to start?
Yeah, tell us more about tell us more about the book. Tell us about when you were, as a child, what you remember. It was simpler times. And also the fact that I love this. I didn't love the story, but the story about, and I could relate to it because I had a leg caught in a bicycle too. You had a crazy thing happen on a bike ride when you were young.
Yeah, when I was 5 years old, my mom and dad were sticklers to be home for dinner time, and I looked at somebody's watch, and I was going to be late, and I said, oh, God, I got to get home or I'm going to be in big trouble. And this gal says, I'll give you a ride on my bike. So I thought, fine. I jumped on the back of her bike, and we went a block or two and jumped a curb and kind of swerved a little bit, and my left heel went into the spokes, and it twisted my leg, and I heard pop, and she got me home, and I was kind of whining, and Mom, was nice and saying, are you okay? What's wrong? What happened? And Dad got home. He said, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. He was a Marine in Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa, and he was German, and he never told me once in his life that he loved me. We never hugged, and it wasn't until he was dying that he squeezed my hand 5 times when he was leaving as a way of saying thanks, I guess. But anyway, they went to the doctor, and the doctor was a good friend of the family, and he took an X-ray. He says, God, Cal, he's been walking on a broken femur for 3 days, and you didn't bring him in. And he was kind of pissed at my dad. And they put me in a cast from my groin to my ankle, and I was in that for about 6 months, I think. And boy, my leg was skinny when I got out of that. But after I got in the cast, there was not much pain. And then I found out if I could run to the Air Force, and if they'd take me before my draft notice or before my physical, that I wouldn't have to be in the Army or the Marines. So I went to the Air Force, and I said, can I sign up? And they said, let's test you. And they tested me, and they said, yeah, we want you. I said, what kind of job will I have? They said, you'll be an electronic specialist. And I said, will I ever have to go to Vietnam? Oh, there's not a chance in hell you go to Vietnam. And 6 months later, I was a crew chief on C-130s in Vietnam.
Wow. What was it like being a crew chief?
It was wonderful. I loved the job. I loved having a multi-million-dollar plane. People saying, "How's your plane?" and stuff, And I loved inspecting it, and I loved flying in it, and I had a lot of close calls, but I made it.
And I said this at the beginning, but once again, thank you for your service, Robert. No question about it. We're talking to Robert Ackerman. His book is I Heal You with My Hands. And in the book, you talk about all kinds of things, but you researched climate change for 3 decades. What did you find out that we need to know?
That it's real, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be really bad by 2050. And it's going to keep getting worse after that because, well, Trump has stopped wind farms and solar panels mostly, and he did away with all regulations on CO2s, so you can spit as much CO2 in the atmosphere as you want to. And 11 of the last 11 years have been the hottest years on record since 1880s. And the odds of that being a coincidence, odds are phenomenal. It's real. It's going to get worse, and it's going to be bad.
When people read your book, I Heal You with My Hands, what do you hope they take away from reading it?
I hope they get away from reading it that we're one with God. He is everywhere. He is all-knowing. He's omnipresent, all-powerful. And it's in God we live, we move, and have our being. And that's all of us. And we're connected to God's brain. His brain is in our brain. In fact, can I read something?
Sure.
Okay, George DiCaprio, Leonardo DiCaprio's father sent Greg Gates, an attorney friend of mine in California, a letter. And we've been best friends forever, and we believe the same things politically and religiously. Anyway, the scientists came up with this. They said the pervasive universal consciousness model is a new frontier in understanding reality. It states the nature of consciousness has puzzled humanity for centuries, inspiring philosophical debates and scientific inquiry. In recent years, a compelling idea has emerged that challenges conventional views. The pervasive universal consciousness, PUC model. It goes on to say that consciousness is not confined to individual brains or biological systems, but is a fundamental feature of the universe itself, interwoven in the very fabric of reality. The PUC model suggests that everything exists from particles to planets participate in a vast interconnected field of awareness. Instead, the brain acts as a receiver, conduit for a universal field of consciousness, much like radio tunes in electronic waves. I've known this since God revealed to me that he was a singularity of infinite gravity, infinite density, and infinite intelligence. And then he designed the universe, and then he created what they call the Big Bang. Of course, there was no bang because there was no ears to hear it, but it was his just expanding himself faster than light. And so I followed the Red Road for 6 years, and it's the Lakota path for spirituality, and it's a very strict path. And if they call in lots of spirits, and if you deviate too much, they can hang you. They hung on. My medicine man said once he did something wrong, and the spirits grabbed him and took him up and hung him upside down on a cliff. And I didn't believe it. But then after being in ceremonies where they called in spirits and I witnessed them, I felt them, and the Lakota were very spiritual. And I followed the Red Road for about 6 years, and they believed that everything was spiritual. And the bison they killed, they called brother, and they knew they were killing a relative, that they think everything is related. Matakiasan is what they said, means all my relatives. So they thought they were related to everything, every mountain, every stream, every tree, and it turns out they were right.
Wow. That is completely fascinating. The book again, I Heal You with My Hands, Robert Ackerman. We could talk all day. Thank you so much for coming on.